SETI's results for 2018 proves our effectiveness as a development partner, placing people at the center of our work and leveraging partnerships and cooperation to transform policy imperatives into action. With an eye on the rapidly changing global context, SETI is innovating to constructively address the emerging challenges and opportunities for the region. As part of our competitiveness program, SETI is designing precise tools to assess assets and capabilities in the productive sector to determine paths towards higher value goods and services. As our flagship program for partnerships, the Americas Competitiveness Exchange on Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the OAS, will continue to leverage good practices and the power of networks to increase trade and investment in the region.
For us, the role of the OAS is very important, connecting countries, connecting governments and private sector, and letting us know what other countries are doing it and how we can replicate that in our countries to enhance development.
For me, who has come here to look at how can we develop our own ecosystem, our own innovation hubs, our own accelerators, I think seeing this, touching, feeling it, seeing the transformation, seeing how quickly you've made it happen is a testament to what is possible. So I believe all of us leave here stronger than ever.
The Working Group of Experts on Subnational Competitiveness, the GTEX, is our gateway program to promote local economic competitiveness policies alongside municipal and state-level governments, together with the private sector and academia.
Este tipo de reuniones te sirven para darte cuenta de todo lo que se está viviendo en América Latina sobre los temas de competitividad. Y hoy justamente en este sector estamos viendo sobre todo los temas de innovación tecnológica, pues que si hablamos de competitividad tenemos que hablar de tecnología. Y me está ayudando mucho para ver el panorama de ver lo que están haciendo otras ciudades y lo que podemos llegar a aplicar también nosotros en México.
The Hub on the Transfer and Commercialization of Technology is strengthening national innovation ecosystems by training budding entrepreneurs to take promising products and services from idea to market.
¿Por qué es importante que estemos juntos en esto? Porque la región tiene que estar unida y me parece que hay mucho conocimiento en la región que todavía no está explotado comercialmente como podría ser, y esta es la mejor manera de hacerlo.
Tenemos la proyección de cada año generar y compartir nuevas experiencias entre aquellos que contribuyen a la innovación. Queremos cambiar el cómo lo hemos estado haciendo en Latinoamérica. Queremos generar la unión de los países, queremos colaborar.
Our virtual platform on technology foresight, Prospecta Americas, will support OAS member states in identifying and mapping future trends and technological development of critical importance for the Americas.
Este esfuerzo, el cual viene siendo apoyado por la Organización de los Estados Americanos, nos permitirá tener una gran información para poder mapear estas iniciativas de innovación y poder que ellas contribuyan al crecimiento económico, a la competitividad y al bienestar de nuestras naciones.
Como bien sabemos, nos encontramos ya en la cuarta revolución industrial, la que está cambiando rápidamente la forma en que se hace negocio, se produce, se consume y se genera bienestar y entretenimiento en el mundo. Es la mayor amenaza, tal vez la mejor oportunidad que tenemos en nuestras naciones.
The Inter-American Teacher Education Network, the I-10, is working to improve the quality of teachers with an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. In 2019, the I-10 launched the first STEM Teacher Fellowship of the Americas. The Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, ECPA, is working with governments in the Caribbean to advance electric mobility and clean transport as the sub-region pursues energy independence. Under our Integrated Water Resource Management Program, SETI is responding to the demand for platforms and applications that capture and disseminate real-time information. This includes the expansion of Costa Rica's Plataforma Interactiva de Aplicación del Clima Tropical, to the rest of Central America to help build resilient agriculture. The Inter-American Committee on Ports is building human and institutional capacity through public-private partnerships to address port modernization, logistics, and security. CooperaNet, SETI's multi-stakeholder platform for cooperation and partnerships, is being relaunched in 2019, responding to member states' call for a more robust hub for cooperation. As more consumers begin or end their shopping process online, SETI has entered into a partnership with the private sector to digitize millions of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the region.
Las buenas noticias es que sabemos por qué están fracasando, porque no son visibles. Y el hecho de que ahora lo puedan ser, haciéndolo ellas mismas, no solamente rompemos las tres barreras del tiempo, conocimiento y dinero, sino que les permitimos tener éxito y dejar de fracasar a los porcentajes que lo hacen ahora.
Es una herramienta que sin duda acerca a las MIPYMES hacia la demanda que hoy está migrando a Internet, y con eso pretendemos mejorar las ventas y el posicionamiento de las empresas pequeñas.
As we look to the future, the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development will continue to leverage cooperation and partnerships to expand our reach, proving that together we are much more than the sum of our 34 member states.
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Nosotros estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
De allí vino él, se buscó creo con los de la OEA y de allí vino el proyecto para acá, para Judá. Y fue que lo dieron el terreno, y lo dieron todo lo que era mano de obra y el material para hacer en las casas que están ahorita. Y por ese motivo estamos aquí viviendo todavía.
La misión continúa trabajando en la implementación de medidas de fomento de la confianza mientras aguarda el resultado del reclamo que está atendiendo la Corte Internacional de Justicia por la disputa marítima, territorial e insular. Nuestra oficina en la zona de adyacencia realiza verificaciones a solicitud de ambos gobiernos, facilita reuniones y patrullajes conjuntos entre las Fuerzas Armadas y promueve una cultura de paz y cooperación entre las comunidades locales.
Children will be children and they have harmony. They don't see each other as a different country, but they see each other that they're growing together.
Hoy, esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos, no podemos ser neutrales.
Open this meeting. We will move on to item 5 in the order of business, commemoration of the World Day of Down Syndrome. This is the commemoration of the World Down Syndrome Day in line with the request presented by the Permanent Mission of El Salvador on behalf of the group of Friends of Persons with Disabilities at the OAS, comprised of the permanent missions of Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, United States, Guatemala, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. Through the note contained in document CP/INF 886/21. World Down Syndrome Day is celebrated on the 21st of March each year. This was designated by the UN General Assembly in December 2011. The idea was to raise more public awareness on the issue and remind us of the inherent dignity and the valuable, brave contributions of persons with disabilities as promoters of well-being and diversity in their communities. On behalf of the Permanent Council, I am delighted to give the floor to Ambassador Wendy Acevedo Castillo, the interim representative of El Salvador, who will read the declaration of the Group of Friends of Persons with Disabilities at the Organization of American States to commemorate the World Down Syndrome Day 2021. Ambassador Acevedo Castillo, I give you the floor. Thank you very much, Ambassador. The Group of Friends of Persons with Disabilities of the Organization of American States join the commemoration of World Down Syndrome Day, established on the 21st of March by the UN General Assembly with the purpose to raise public awareness about the realities of persons with disabilities, as well as remember the inherent dignity, worth, and valuable contributions of persons with intellectual disabilities as promoters of well-being and diversity in their communities, highlighting the importance of their individual autonomy and independence, in particular, the freedom to make their own decisions. Taking into account the adverse context that the COVID-19 pandemic has generated, which imposed challenges to communicate or relate to others, many have been left behind, and it is essential that we raise awareness on the central theme of the commemoration for 2021, Connect, which aims to guide efforts to improve and adapt connections that ensure that all persons with Down syndrome can connect and participate on equal basis with others. We recall that the 50th General Assembly of the OAS recognized that persons with disabilities are among those most disproportionately affected by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the areas of health, economic status, education, social protection, among others, aggravating pre-existing barriers to accessibility and adaptability of essential public services, employment, and education. With these considerations, we emphasize that the full participation of persons with Down syndrome in making decisions about matters that directly or indirectly affect their lives is more relevant than ever, so that their specific needs are considered in present and future responses to the pandemic. Down syndrome has always been part of the human condition and exists in all regions of the world, and usually has variable effects on learning styles, physical characteristics, or health. Interpreter notes the very poor sound quality. On average, 18 out of every 10,000 persons are born with Down syndrome in the Americas. Persons with Down syndrome often face stigma and segregation, physical and psychological abuse, and lack of equal opportunities. They suffer discrimination and social exclusion that can begin at a very early age through the denial of access to regular education systems, null possibilities of labor inclusion and training for work, and the denial of their right to make decisions about their life. Inclusion and full participation of persons with disabilities in all aspects of society is supported by the Inter-American Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities and the Declaration of the Decade of the Americas for the Rights of and Dignity of Persons with Disabilities. It is in this context that persons with disabilities should enjoy legal capacity on an equal basis with others, particularly with respect to persons with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities who face greater restrictions on the right to equal recognition as persons before the law. The OAS Group of Friends of Persons with Disabilities recognizes on this day the human dignity, value, and example of people with Down syndrome in the region, who, from their different skills in various sectors, contribute every day to enrich our societies. We urge all member states to promote the autonomy, independence, and leadership of persons with intellectual disabilities in their own lives, to generate changes together with all sectors of society to achieve the true inclusion of persons with Down syndrome that fully respects human diversity and does not leave anyone outside or behind, particularly in the responses and recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I'd now like to ask the Secretariat to project the testimonies that were previously recorded. Please show this video.
Sou coordenadora do Grupo Nacional de Autodefensoria da Federação Brasileira de Síndrome de Down. No Brasil, tem
Few people in Brazil with Down syndrome have jobs, and it is difficult to be included in our society. That is a right to work alongside other people. I work, and the Secretary of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and I am a photographer. I have been recognized for my work. It ensures that I have autonomy and other rights, as well as what people with Down syndrome can do. We can provide good services and be part of society alongside other people. The employment campaign speaks a little bit about this, and it shows the value of the work of people with Down syndrome and how hiring those people benefits them and society as a whole. Other people have now hired people with Down syndrome, and I am very happy to be part of this campaign. Other people should also have this opportunity, the same opportunity that I had. I would also like to talk about the 2021 World Down Syndrome Day. Our group of 15 people, we are a group of 15 people with Down syndrome in Brazil, and we connect. We talk on Zoom and on WhatsApp. We share our ideas and experiences. We also are able to learn about the values and contributions of people with deficiencies, as well as public policies. And how adults with Down syndrome can lead the way in building these spaces and defending our rights, ensuring our full participation in society. My name is Samuel Sistaro, and I am from Sao Paulo, and I am part of the Brazilian Federation of People with Down syndrome, and I am going to talk about the pandemic and the situation in general. It's important for us to be able to participate in society, and even when we have to socially distance, connection is very important. Interpreter notes that the sound quality is very poor. The vaccine against COVID-19 for people with Down syndrome should be a priority from the very beginning. And today we are vulnerable people. We are at high risk, and we have weakened immune systems. But that is about to change. Hi, I'm Isabela Simbrui Tejada. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Guatemala. I'm a fashion designer, and I have Down syndrome. Many countries are surprised at my creativity, but I went to a regular school, and I know what it is to be different, but it means I have to try harder. And that is the case for all children with Down syndrome. We can achieve anything. I would like to study at the university to continue studying fashion designer. However, I was not allowed to be admitted. I was very frustrated, but I didn't give up. Just a few months later, I began taking classes at an academy where I learned how to make design patterns. And today I can design fashion for people, and I even was able to take part in London Fashion Week. That visit was not only a chance to show off my work, but it was also a chance to call for visibility and speak with some of the most influential people in the fashion world. And that was when my life changed. I was able to create my own brand, and this was an opportunity finally to study at the university and also create my own creative process along with my team. My providers are Guatemalan craftsmen, and they are paid fairly for their work, and they're able to have more income for their families. My brand is comfortable, and I'm committed to ensuring social and mental integration as well as economic support. I have worked with Mexican companies that also promote these spaces, fashion, influential fashion, and changing fashions. We met all of the women in my family, particularly my maternal grandmother, are passionate about design, and I was able to show off the natural beauty of Guatemala. I am delighted with all of these opportunities, to show these beautiful fabrics. Taking on the unknown is difficult with Down syndrome, but we all are capable and we should not be discriminated against. My career has allowed me to share my message of love and inclusion. I want to change paradigms in society, for the world to open its eyes and see all that we can give the world. For people with Down syndrome, we can be very active in our society. With the support and love of our family and friends, we can become adults with all of the abilities and qualities that we need to be independent adults. Never say it can't be done. We can do anything. Let's be positive, and with the support of our family, our mother, father, brothers and sisters and friends, we can take on anything with love and with heart. With heart, we can do it. I'm Isabella. I have Down syndrome, and I love my life, how I am, and I love Guatemala.
My name is Maria Barbara Don Mendoza. I'm Venezuelan and American. I'm 25 years old. I have Down syndrome. I wanted to be part of this permanent council meeting at the OAS on this World Day that commemorates Down syndrome, and with all friends of persons with disabilities. I'd like to thank you for your support. I'm a lucky person. I have lived in both countries, Venezuela and the United States. And that's why I speak Spanish and English. I graduated from high school in New Jersey. And I studied at the community college. And I studied liberal arts. I have to make more of an effort, but I had a coach who helped me with what I needed. I got a lot of A's, but I also asked her for more A's. I participated in workshops, and I worked for 8 years in Venezuela. I worked with UNESCO and also advocated for inclusion. I do the same thing. When I work for the radio. My name is Barbara, but you'll see a documentary on YouTube of myself, Down syndrome up. I'm part of a group, the Venezuelan Association for Down syndrome. It speaks about what we need and what we have to do. We have to have respect and employment. We need energy to be part. And further, people with Down syndrome have a chance, according to scientists, and we have to work 5 to 10 times more than everybody else. And that's why we should be in those groups that should be vaccinated right away. I got my vaccination last Sunday. I'm here, and that's what I had to tell you. To do well, we need education. This is for our future and for ourselves as well. We need to be included. In the society. That's what high school is about. If somebody studies with a person with disabilities, they can learn a lot from them. We can learn from them and they can learn from us. We want to be included. And we want to show that we're capable of doing things. And that's why we need to have good jobs and to earn the same as everybody else. The same people who do the same work. We want people to include us. We'll be happy to have a home we'll do that in the future. We'd like to be like everybody else, nothing less. Thank you. Thank you very much. We heard from Isabella from Guatemala and Barbara Mendoza from Venezuela. I'd like to show you a video from the campaign. It's about hiring people with Down syndrome. The hiring chain sting.
do the job. The lawyer went to the baker and saw Simone at work. The lawyer hired John because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The dentist went to the lawyer and saw John at work. The dentist had Sophia because the lawyer hired John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The farmer went to the dentist and saw Sophia at work. The farmer had Kate because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The farmer went to the farmer and saw Kate at work. The farmer had Paul because the farmer had Kate, because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker went to the barber and saw Paul at work. He didn't have a clue, but it was thanks to his first move that the barber had Paul, because the farmer had Kate, because the dentist had Sophia, because the lawyer had John, because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. Yeah.
Thank you very much to the Secretariat. I'd like to give the floor to those delegations who might like to make comments on this point. I thank all those delegations who have taken the floor. And I should like to do so after giving Chile the floor. Chile has the floor. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate having this very relevant item on the agenda at this meeting of the Permanent Council at the request of the group of countries, of friends of persons with disabilities. Today, we commemorate the International Day for Down syndrome. It's very important, whereby all efforts focus on raising awareness regionally in all due respect to rights and the Constitution for Down syndrome people in all aspects of society. Therefore, today we've had a wonderful opportunity to value diversity and to recognize the very important contribution that people with Down syndrome can offer to the development of each and every one of our countries. It is important to generate opportunities so that there can be equal opportunity. In the light of the pandemic, there are more challenges when it comes to rights of all people, particularly in the case of people with Down syndrome. My country has taken specific measures to ensure their protection and care. The National Service for Disabilities established sectoral work with a view to improving inclusion. There are measures such as health care for people with disabilities, and there are other protocols for residents for people with disabilities. There's financing for persons with disabilities, and there's a network of support. And there was a survey to identify needs of persons with disabilities, and it was deemed the best way to offer some psychological care for people with disabilities and their families. There is economic support for these people, access to medication or drugs, as well as other items. And similarly, we have adjusted programs for people with disabilities to study and made national efforts to finance projects in the social sector, including looking at the needs. In addition to this, and because of COVID-19, we have other projects, including for those who have intellectual disabilities. There are two main components: leadership and capacity building regionally for intellectual disabilities, and using the Roundtable for Intellectually Disabled People. There are other organizations that are linked as well. Also, in December 2020, there was another process that is being carried out in Chile. At that time, we established a program to promote inclusion, and there is a minimum percentage of 5% of all candidates reserved for people with disabilities. And then finally, we would like to make an appeal to leave aside stereotypes about people with disabilities. Our commitment and our interest is to promote full-fledged development in all areas of their life, so that they can really have full-fledged social inclusion across the board in all projects. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Secretary General, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see you here. In 2011, the General Assembly of the United Nations established March 2011 the International Day for Down Syndrome to underscore the dignity, the value, and the contributions of people with intellectual disabilities as the driving force for the well-being and the diversity in these communities. Today, we have to spearhead the fight against discrimination of these people in the region. This is a reflection of the commitment so that all inhabitants of the Americas, without any exclusion, can achieve their full-fledged development to the benefit of development. Over the course of history, disabilities have been looked at, and now we have to promote equal opportunities and full-fledged participation across the board with people who have disabilities in the society. And similarly, we recognize that disabilities are the result of interaction between people who have some limitations in their motor or intellectual abilities, and therefore there are limits in their social inclusion. And I should also like to underscore that in keeping with the Special Olympics, about 3% of the population worldwide have intellectual disabilities, which means we have 200 million. Lack of opportunity and awareness for development is a reality for all people with disabilities, and one of the main barriers with people with Down syndrome has to do with the stereotype and the stigma and a denial of their rights to live independently. The cultural stigma, the negative views and profiles with people with disabilities is the main reason for their exclusion, and the denial of services, education, political life, and social inclusion. Exclusion is a priority topic in the hemispheric agenda because we recognize that development of the region will not be possible unless we have all inhabitants of the Americas, particularly the people who are in vulnerable groups, to fulfill this gap of this historic discrimination, which is structural and intersectional. Member states of the OAS have worked arduously in adopting and implementing thematic instruments legally binding for the rights of populations that are vulnerable. We have a declaration against all forms of discrimination for people with disabilities, and we adopted the Inter-American Convention Against Racism, Racial Discrimination in all associated areas, and the Inter-American Convention against all forms of discrimination. In 2018, we have an action program for the Americas for the right to dignity of people with disabilities for the new decade till 2026, so that the instruments established for the states the obligation to adopt legislation, laws, special programs, and projects with a view to guaranteeing the exercise of fundamental rights of all people with disabilities. We reiterate the importance to continue to promote and protect the right of peoples to live independently and to be part of the entire society, and this requires policies or legislation, laws that fully understand people with disabilities and allow them to take decisions. In this regard, the General Secretariat is putting together the first legislative guide. Judges and other civil servants who will deal with people with disabilities to provide some guidelines for better implementation of Article 12 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And then lastly, we believe, and we would like to congratulate all of the work being done by the group of friends as we celebrate the first virtual conference by the Department of Social Inclusion. My acknowledgement, my commendation and greeting and all support for all persons with Down syndrome every single day of the year in each arena and in every area in the organization. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Secretary General. Ambassador Spencer Phillips, Trinidad and Tobago, has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and please permit me to apologize to you and distinguished colleagues. I'm multitasking. I'm attempting to multitask. Clearly, I didn't do well, so I missed the opportunity you offered to us earlier. Madam Chair, on behalf of the CARICOM member states, I must begin by thanking the delegation of El Salvador and the other member states of the OAS group of friends of persons with disabilities for requesting the inclusion of this item on the agenda of today's meeting of the Permanent Council. Chair, the member states of the CARICOM Regional Group welcome the commemoration of World Down Syndrome Day, being observed on the 21st March 2021 for the 10th year. And so we join in advocating for and advancing the rights, inclusion, and well-being of persons with Down syndrome. CARICOM member states are committed to the meaningful inclusion of persons with disabilities in all areas of society. This commitment was placed on record at the CARICOM high-level meeting on the rights of persons with disabilities held in Pétionville, Haiti on December 5th and 6th, 2013. The Declaration of Pétionville, inter alia, reiterates member states' commitment to the implementation of the Kingston Accord on the responsibilities of states with respect to persons with disabilities, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and the Inter-American Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities in accordance with their respective constitutions and laws. This expression of political will also promotes the creation of more inclusive societies for persons with disabilities, including the appointment of a CARICOM Special Rapporteur on Disability and the establishment of a network for regular consultation among representatives of the regional community working in the interest of people with disabilities, and I know certainly in many countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, specifically with those Down syndrome. This year's commemoration of World Down Syndrome Day is particularly important in the context of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. In its publication entitled Disability Considerations During the COVID-19 Outbreak, the World Health Organization stated that people with disabilities may be at greater risk of contracting COVID-19 for several reasons, including barriers to implementing basic hygiene measures, difficulty in engaging in social distancing measures because of additional support needs, and underlying health conditions. Even before the onset of the pandemic, persons with disabilities experienced challenges with mobility, access to healthcare, and communication. COVID-19 has magnified those challenges and has affected the physical health of persons with disabilities, as well as their mental and emotional well-being. Chair, it's appropriate and fitting that the focus of this year's commemoration of World Down Syndrome Day is Connect. For persons with disabilities, who represent 15% of the world's population, physical connections are necessary for essential day-to-day functions. We therefore welcome the rapid pace of development and deployment of technological solutions to address the communication and connection gaps created by the measures to mitigate the spread of the virus. While virtual meetings cannot replace physical interactions, we are grateful that persons with disabilities, as we just saw in the video presented here, can still maintain connections with their loved ones and even with us here at the Permanent Council as more vulnerable members of our society. Chair, Excellencies, we are grateful for the important technological advances made to facilitate communication, education, and the administration of healthcare, including for the disabled. However, our concerns persist for the equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, particularly in our member states that have not had access to vaccines and where therefore our disabled citizens cannot be vaccinated. On this 10th commemoration of World Down Syndrome Day, we therefore seize this opportunity to reiterate our call for equal access to vaccines for all countries so that we can protect the lives of the disabled or persons with Down syndrome and the most vulnerable among us. In conclusion, Chair, Excellencies, and distinguished colleagues, CARICOM member states remain firm in our commitment to work with other member states, permanent observers, and the General Secretariat to ensure that the differently abled enjoy a good standard of living and are fully integrated into our respective societies. Let's connect. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'd like to thank those delegations who have taken the floor as we commemorate the World Down Syndrome Day. And of course, to all those delegations who have asked for this topic to be included on the agenda of this meeting. The chairwoman is in the virtual room, so I'd like to hand over the baton to her.
Está mute,
Okay.
Presidenta.
Thank you very much for chairing. In 2 weeks, I will be delighted to hand the chairmanship over to another woman. The next point on the order of business is the consideration of the recommendation from the CAP to approve a transfer of resources higher than 2.5% pursuant to the request from the chair of the CAP in note CP Inf 8889/21. I am delighted to salute and give the floor to Ambassador Hugh Adsett, the Permanent Representative of Canada and Chair of the CAP. Ambassador Adsett, you're recognized.
Madam President, and good afternoon, colleagues. In my capacity as Chair of the Committee on Administrative and Budgetary Affairs, it's my pleasure to address the Council and to present for consideration the recommendation by the CAP in regards to the transfer of the Department of Planning and Evaluation, currently under the Strategic Council for Organizational Development and Management for Results, to the Secretariat for Administration and Finance. The CAP, at its meeting held on February 9th of 2021, requested the General Secretariat to present a plan for the transfer to be considered by member states. The Secretariat presented the plan, distributed as document CP/CAAP-3730/21. Delegations were pleased with the plan and that the plan maintains the functions of the department without adding an additional directorate and director position within the Secretariat of Administration and Finance. This plan would reassign all current Department of Planning and Evaluation staff members to duties at their current grade levels. At its meeting held on March 11, 2021, the CAP agreed to submit to the Permanent Council the recommendation to approve the transfer of resources exceeding 2.5% from Chapter 4 to Chapter 11 and formalize this decision. By virtue of the foregoing, and in accordance with the authority conferred by Article 91 sub B of the OAS Charter, we request the Permanent Council to approve, ad referendum of the General Assembly, the transfer of the planning and evaluation functions that were assigned to the Strategic Council for Organizational Development and Management for Results to an already existing department of the Secretariat for Administration and Finance, and consequently to approve the transfer of resources between the respective chapters of the program budget in order to comply with Article 110 of the General Standards to govern the operations of the General Secretariat. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Adset, for your presentation. I'd like to give the floor to the delegations if they have any comments to share. If there are no requests, I see the United States has the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The United States is very supportive of this transfer. As delegations will recall, the CAP began this conversation about the structure and resource allocation of the General Secretariat during its budget deliberations last year. As a part of the 2021 budget resolution, member states required that the General Secretariat report on its reorganization in response to a reduced budget. In response to the General Secretariat's February report, the United States requested the General Secretariat develop a proposal to return the Department of Planning Evaluation from Chapter 4 to Chapter 11. We are grateful for the efforts of the General Secretariat to quickly develop a strong proposal and also request that all the member states support this transfer, which will bolster the organization's efficient and effective management of funds. And so we are very pleased. We think that this is very important to help establish a more effective and efficient OAS, and we strongly support this. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a la
Thank you very much to the U.S. delegation. I don't see any further requests for the floor. Is that correct? Confirmed. If there are no more requests for the floor, I suggest that pursuant to the provisions of Article 91B of the OAS Charter, the OAS Permanent Council can approve ad ref of the General Assembly the transfer of functions of planning and evaluation to one of the existing departments of the SAF, and to that it approve the transfer of resources among the respective chapters of the program budget in compliance with Article 110 of the General Standards for the General Secretariat. If there is no objection, it is hereby approved. Approved. The next item on the order of business is the adoption of the following Permanent Council minutes from 2264 special session of December 10th, 2019, 2265 special session from December 11th, 2019, 2266 regular session of December 11th, 2019, minutes 2267 of the special session from December 12th, 2019, and minutes 2268 of the regular session of December 18th, 2019. Are there any comments? If there is one comment. Ambassador Adset from Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In the list of minutes that were just read, there is one, I believe, if I've caught the number correct, where there are some errors in the French language text that we will submit to the Secretariat, and that document is number 2264/19. So if we could set that one aside, we'll be happy to submit our corrections. Thank you.
Muy bien. Excellent. In that case, I would approve the prior minutes with the exception of 2264/19. If there are no further comments, the minutes are adopted with the exception noted for 2264. We will await the corrections that will be coming from the Permanent Mission of Canada. Dear colleagues, we have concluded with the order of business for today's session. I'd like to give the floor to the delegations if they would like to draw the Council's attention to any other items of business that in a purely informative nature. Venezuela has requested the floor. Microphone. Thank you. I apologize, Chair. Very, very briefly. On March 10th and 11th, we had the reports of the International Mission on Human Rights Violations in Venezuela and the High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet's report. I did want to ask that the ambassadors read the reports. We will be submitting this in the official languages. Thank you very much, Chair. We will wait for the reports to be sent from Venezuela. Are there any more requests for the floor? If there are no more requests, I would like to thank everyone for your participation today. We made a great step forward for the organization today, and thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.